makers, and welcome to Spectiva Studios. It's really good to have you here. Now this week we're going to focus on working with paint, but in this case we're going to be working with paint and paint pens. I'll introduce you to paint pens if you're not familiar with them. At some point in the future we'll do a good shootout between different paint pens. We're going to use some fairly bargain brand today. It's going to work out just fine for what we're doing. Now actually, just to give you a preview, we're going to create this. Yeah, we're going to create one of those. I know I haven't seen it yet, but you have, so at least now you have an understanding of kind of where we're heading. And to kick things off, right in front of me I have a piece of heavy duty watercolor paper. It's got a little bit of texture to it, and I have currently masked it off. I've given it about an inch on the top and bottom, left and right, and I just want to make sure I have a space where there's no paint that's going to sit in there, just to give it a little bit of a frame naturally. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some paint. I have here some apple barrel black. I also have a little bit of some scarlet red here. And you know what? I'm going to put a little purple in here as well. And the objective here is just to create a background. This is going to be the background for our piece of art. And what I want to be able to do with this is lay down a fairly dark background. I'll have some splotches of yellow, some red and some purple in here as well. And then we're going to be covering the whole thing up with different paint pen marks. And that's going to be really the focus of this entire thing. So to kick it off, I'm going to get mostly black is going to be the background here. I want to have a good dark background that I can work with here. So again, I'm going to reach into my paint here and just start to create a nice even coat. And again, let me just take advantage of the fact that I do have masking up here. Get those nice clean corners. And I'm just going to take my time, come in here. And let's just make sure we have a good dark background. Like I said, I'm going to break this up with a little bit of color. Not that it's necessary. You can go all black if that's what you want to be able to do. But it's going to reflect. It's almost like if there's going to be a little bit of that color, that red or that purple that we use is going to end up showing through as being the background. And that's going to enhance it a little bit as well. And we'll see what this looks like when we get there. But like I said, for the most part, this is going to be a black background. I'm just going to smooth that out best I can. Realize you can't actually see the top part that I'm working on. Let me bring this down a little bit so you can. That's a lot more fun for you. And we're going to come in here and again do our best to just cover this guy up, smooth it out. And the nice thing about this black, well, a couple of things I like about this particular black. It is a matte black, which means that it's going to dry with a matte finish. And that means it's going to be a little bit easier for us to put another color on top of it. With a gloss sometimes, again, a gloss makes things a little shiny, and it also makes it a little bit more slippery. So when you're trying to paint, especially with a paint pen on top of it, it could really create a different type of effect. So we'll do that. Now I'm thinking we'll put a little bit of purple kind of right in this section here. And I'm going to put some red down in this section here. And again, there's no scientific precision to this at all. We're just going to simply come in here and kind of lay out the colors best we can. And the nice thing about this is it doesn't have to be exact or precise at all, because this is a background. No one is really ever going to see this except for you. And it's only going to be here for a moment. It's only going to be here as something we can actually jump into very, very quickly. And by the way, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but it's already starting to dry pretty rapidly up here in the places where I've already painted. One of the things I want to make sure I do, however, is just kind of smooth that out. I'd like to avoid having any kind of texture that ends up sticking behind because of the paint lines. So take a moment to come in here and just make sure that that is covered. And again, coming down here now, I'm just going to finish this off. There we go. This is an 18 by 24 inch sheet of paper, by the way, and I'll put a link in the description below so you guys can check it out for yourself. This is my go-to watercolor paper. I like working with this for a lot of projects because I like the size of it, and I just like the quality of the paper, if I'm being honest. I think it's really an easier paper to work on. It does get a little bit, especially since watercolor paper is designed to take moisture in, which is important, especially when you're painting directly on it, as we are. If you wanted to have something that was only for drawing and didn't have to require any kind of wet element, there are other different types of paper. A mixed media paper, for example, would probably work really well in those instances, and you can get that as well. That's another thing that the folks at Strathmore provide, and I like to use. All right, so there we are. So that looks pretty good. Again, this doesn't have to be a piece of art in itself. And let me get some water on my brush, get some of that black off of there. And Again, you can do a fair amount of brush cleaning with not too much water. And of course, in my studio, I don't have running water. So I have to run off to a local bathroom to make all this happen if I want to. And sometimes it kind of kills the mood if you're constantly running away. So having a place where you can clean brushes locally, sometimes your best friend is going to be a paper towel. Just to kind of dab that stuff off on. All right, let me come in here and I don't care if my brush is perfectly cleaned or not. I'm going to come in here and let me get in here with some of this red as well. And again, we're just creating kind of a background in here. This is kind of more of a pinky orangey red than a fire engine red. Not that it really matters for us. Let's get a little bit of black into it. Again, not going to be a big deal for us. We're going to cover it up like that anyway. And there we go. And again, I might just take a moment to smooth things out. Good stuff. All right, I think that'll work for the red. And let's do the same thing with the purple. Again, I'll just come in here and dab my brush off and do my best to just get any extra pigment out of my brush. Not going to be a huge problem. However, as I tap into my purple here, and same thing, just get a little bit. And by the way, purple and black work really well together. If you're ever just making artwork and think, hey, what colors go really well together? Purple and black do a really nice job. There we go. And we'll come down here like this. And we'll come here like this. All right, and there we go. So there is our background. Now again, it doesn't have to look like anything fantastic. The objective here is just to have something that we can actually work on with our paint pens. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a few minutes to dry sufficiently. And when we get back, it's time to take a look at some of the paint pen colors that we have, the options, and really what the overall objective of this piece of artwork will be. All right, everybody, welcome back. Now, we've given our paper an opportunity to dry. And by the way, drying time is going to vary depending upon the types of paint you're using, time of year it is. Wintertime, where I live at least, it'll dry a lot faster because the air is a lot drier. But one of the things when you're working with this watercolor paper is that you can tell it's getting dry when it starts to relax. When the water starts coming out of it, it starts to kind of unbuckle a little bit. It's still kind of a few pockets in here, but yeah, you can start to see where it is. Now, what we want to do with this background is we want to be able to start making marks on top of it using paint pens. Now, we're going to be using some affordable Craft Smart paint pens. At some point in the future, I'll do some sort of a shootout between the different types of pens. And one of the things I'll also share with you is that you can also, there are pens that you can get where you can put your own colors into them. It makes a big difference because you are limited by some of the colors that you can get if you want a very unique, or you want to do some sort of a gradient color with your project. You might want to have a little bit more control. We're going to go with some basic white today, and I have a few other colors. I have some purple, and I have a green and a pink and a red, and we'll see what we can do. But the objective overall is to cover this background here with different paint marks. Now, by the way, when you're dealing with paint pens, you want to make sure you give them a good shake before you do anything, especially if they've been sitting around for a while. And oftentimes, I like to just have a piece of test paper that I can kind of dab onto to kind of get them started if I need to. And then it's just really a matter of coming in and saying, all right, let's start putting some marks in here. And the marks I'm putting about maybe like 3/4 of an inch, maybe an inch. And I'm just going to come and make these vertical lines. We'll drop down. We're going to create almost like fringe on a carpet, a shag rug. Those of you who were around in the 70s know exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe this is not going to be goldenrod or burnt orange or whatever kind of horrible thing we were doing back then. But the overall goal, once again, is just to start getting some marks happening here. I'm going to bring mine over a little bit. I may vary it up. And how tightly you put the marks together is up to you. I might tighten it up in certain areas. It's going to change the overall look and feel when I do go a little bit tighter, right? It's going to be more white, less of the black showing through. And I may vary the length of the lines. Again, what I'm trying to do is create something that's going to give me some interesting texture overall, right? And then I can come in and basically start the next course and just come in and say, all right, let's add some more lines under the first group of lines. Sometimes they can overlap. Sometimes there can be a little bit of distance between them. But again, the objective overall is to come in here and to create something that will obscure our background to a certain degree. We might even actually come back in here and tighten things up and just run a number of lines over the lines we've already put in there, kind of fill in the other spaces. But that's entirely up to you. What we're going to end up with, of course, is the effect which we're looking for, which is really kind of this tiered effect where we have lines that are working together. Again, you see when we cross the lines over, creates a different effect. I might actually even come in here and just do something that looks like this. And by the way, when you're working with paint pens, one of the things you need to do periodically is just give it a dab. That's why I like to have a little bit of paper that I can work with here. And then an opportunity to kind of come in here with fresh paint on it and just come in here and put some lines like this. Now again, there is no right way to do any of this. At the end of the day, what we're really trying to do is trying to obscure this big dark space that we've created with our white lines. And I may twist it up a little bit every so often. I might say, you know what, I've got some pink in here as well. Why don't I come in here and just put the occasional pink line? It doesn't have to be all the time, but something that's gonna, again, just kind of change the overall effect. It doesn't just have to be the homogeneousness of white. And again, come in here and add your lines. And I'm going to do that all the way down through this piece. Again, you don't have to watch me do the entire thing. That wouldn't be as much fun as you might think it would be. But when we get to the other end of this, we'll take a look at what the results have been and then talk about things we might do to make modifications or any tweaks to the design if that's what we want to be able to do. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with the good stuff. Okay, welcome back. Now, as you can see, we've gotten the first layer down, and one of the things you want to make sure that you're doing, again, is going for the look and feel. Do I want these colors that are sitting in the background to be as pronounced as they currently are? Not necessarily, and that means that I probably need to put another layer of white paint in at some point. And again, when we look at something like this, a big part of what we might ask ourselves is, you know, what is the look and feel? Am I getting the kind of texture I want? And we might look at this and say, yeah, this is actually great. Or I might say, you know what, let's come in here and let's start laying down some more white over the white, make that a little bit more opaque. That's going to help. And again, get those lines a little bit closer. So if we come and repeat a row and kind of tighten it up, almost like we're scribbling white here, it's going to be a lot more opaque, which is, again, maybe what we're aiming for with something like that. And the overall effect that I'm going for here, personally, is just something that really obscures the background to a certain point, lets the colors pop through as they're necessary, but doesn't become the focal point of the art. I want the white lines or the red lines to become the focal part of the art. Now another thing you see here, maybe you can't really well, but I added a row of purple, which I think worked really nicely for what I was trying to do there. It kind of worked out nicely, and maybe it's the kind of thing I can also do up here by just kind of going over this section that already has white lines on it. And again, I don't have to be super careful here. I'm really just trying to get another swatch of color in there like that. And this is going to, again, when you look at this as a human being, your eye is going to be drawn to certain things. You're going to look at the colors, you're going to look at the structures and the textures, and a lot of these things are just going to grab you and kind of bring you, hold you a little sideways here, by the way. Also have some red in here, and I could come in here and just, you know, bring my red across this red here. You know, see how that looks. Maybe even just come in here and just, let's bring the red across all the way in here. So once again, what it comes really down to for you at the end of this is just to make sure that you're ending up with something that's really fitting your needs aesthetically. And like with any project you work on, almost every single time I work on anything that I've never done before, certainly, it's an experiment, right? It's like going into a laboratory and saying, hey, I have this vision in my head, a thought that something might work here. Is it going to be perfect? I don't know until I get in there and do it. And I think also just understanding how to work a piece and how to work a piece until you should stop working a piece. One of the most important things I think I've learned in my career as an artist is that there's a certain point in time where you should just say, okay, we're done. We're absolutely done. Don't mark it up anymore. You're going to ruin it, right? This is as good as you want. You're going to make it. And you'll learn by sometimes pushing past that point. You'll say, well, this looked good about 5 minutes ago, and now it's not looking better. But you're going to learn by doing, and I want you to feel comfortable with the idea of just experimenting with your art, and not everything you create has to be a masterpiece. You know, sometimes we're going to create something which is a learning experience, and that is valuable in itself. And sometimes it really helps me, and I've mentioned this before in this channel, is to take a piece like this and to hang it on a wall and say, okay, let me look at this for a few days, because my brain will say, wouldn't it be nice if that had a little bit more of kind of a filled in area, maybe get some more bright white in there. Maybe there could be a little bit of a different color in there as well. Let's see, we have a little green in here. Are we gonna totally ruin it if we drop a couple lines of green? Well, the best way to find out is to just come in here and do this. Okay, we can drop a couple in and see if it makes any difference whatsoever if we put a few lines of green. It doesn't really seem to pop out in any way, shape, or form that I can really see. But again, if I were looking at this over time, would it be the kind of thing that would grab my attention? And by the way, maybe these vertical lines need to have some horizontal. Maybe we need to put some cross hatching in here. Again, bottom line is you're going to work on what's going to make you happy in the long run. I'm going to go with this. It may not be something that ends up in the gallery. Again, this could be something that I'm going to just kind of learn from, like you might. But it's going to give us an opportunity to at least try something new, to try to create an effect that is really going to grab our attention. And again, we might want to change it up with different materials. We want to change it up with different colors, and also just try, you know, different paper types. Maybe there's something else that would work better for what I need to do in the long run. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you today. As always, thank you so much for being here. I love being able to share ideas with you and explore pop art and abstract art. And if this is the kind of thing you find really fun, then guess what? We do this every single week. We'd love to be able to share with you. So please feel free to hit that unsubscribe button down below, and we'll let you know when a new video drops, which is every Friday. That's all I have for you this week. Thanks again for being here. I'm Spider. Have yourself a fantastic week, and I'll talk to you real soon.